So, Boo Hewerdine, thanks very much for finding time to talk to us today. Because
No
I've
worries.
been sort of chasing you for a while because I really, really wanted to chat with you.
No
Um,
worries.
the first thing I picked up on looking through your bio from boohewerdine.net is the bio from Ian Cripps, which was written I think in 2017. But what I like about it is it kind of works backwards,
Yeah.
which is kind of a nice way to do it. But there's so much info in there. He's a great writer as well, isn't he?
Yeah, it's very good. I'd forgotten that one. Yeah. I should have a look at it again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good read. It's
Yeah.
a good read for you,
I
maybe.
don't yeah, I don't normally read my own blogs. It seem a bit big headed.
No.
Like yeah.
I mean, it's just a really particularly good one, So I mean, some
Yeah.
of them you
Yeah.
just annoy him, but it's really really
Yeah.
well written.
Yes, I
Um,
do remember, yeah.
to bring you down to our level, just to kick off, what would you remember what your first guitar was?
I think it's a Spanish guitar that was warped that my dad got me. So that didn't really help with my love of music. But the first proper guitar I had was a Fender Music Master, which then I joined my first band, so I played electric at first. I loved that guitar. I don't know, it's gone now somewhere, but I remember the scratch plate broke, and so my dad, I was like pretty young, my dad fixed it using a Fairy liquid bottle.
Blue Peter style.
Good old dad. That's
Yes.
fantastic. Yeah.
And then after that, my first proper acoustic was a Washburn, which I gave to a friend of mine, actually. He still uses it. And then I had Takamines. And I think I had an Ovation. I hated my Ovation so much. I hated it that it's the only time I've done a bit of a Pete Townsend when I could afford a good one. Horrible. It sounded like playing a cheese grater in it.
Did you smash it?
I did. It's the only time I've done anything like that. But smashing an Ovation is really good fun. I used to hate the way the sort of lump at the back used to stick in your gut while you were trying to sing, and all. I just hated it.
Yeah.
So you're not sorry. You don't have a whole wall of
No,
Ovations.
I don't like Ovations either. I don't know
No,
why. I just
no.
never taken to them. I think they're one of those guitars you either like them or you don't.
So then I had a few others, but then I bought a J200, which I really liked.
Nice.
Which used to belong to Brendan Croker. I remember that. Well, then I had to sell that during another period of hardship. I remember I sold it to a man I was playing. I had another guitar by then. I sold it at. I met him in the car park at Glastonbury Festival, and he bought it for 1,500 cash, which I really needed for the old rent. And he still has it in his sort of living room as a sort of decorative piece. He doesn't play. So sometimes he sends me pictures of it, which doesn't make me feel great. but then I met this fella called Alistair Atkin, and he's made all my guitars for me ever since. And Alistair's guitars are fantastic. And just hanging on the wall there, he made the last one, which is the fifth or sixth one he's made me. There's a Boo Hewerdine signature model made to my spec, and you can actually buy them. People buy them. So
Would it be a real pain? Could we see it? Is it possible? Is it too much of a pain? Just
yeah.
sounds great. Just like the idea of seeing that guitar. That's all right. We can. It's just quite exciting to bring guitar into, isn't it? We like seeing guitars.
Yeah, always excited about seeing guitars.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
It's
Yeah.
lovely. It's got the Bible, one of the bits of Bible logo stuff. at
Oh
the top.
wow. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And it records beautifully.
Yeah. Is that? Has it got electronics in it, or is it just?
Yes, it does. I've got a LR bags.
bags. Yeah.
Oh no, not in this one. No, this is a home guitar. No, my live guitar. I don't. No, this is just an acoustic guitar, just for writing. But the ones I use live got LR bags M80s in them, and I put them through an Orchid preamp, and it sounds.
Oh right. Funny you should say that because we were talking to. I don't know if you know him. Do you know a guy called Martin Joseph?
Yes, I do know Martin. Yeah.
Yeah, so Martin, because he lives locally, I've known Martin for quite a long time, and he raves about the Orchid stuff.
They're
I'd never heard
incredible.
of them before. Yeah.
Incredible. The reason I first got them is I used to have an LR Bags preamp, and I was playing a gig near Exeter, and it blew up, which is very not loud sound. And I said, "Oh, what am I going to do?" He said, "Well, there's a guy in Exeter, a retired teacher, who makes preamps. So my first one he made for me while I sat and had a cup of tea, and they're absolutely brilliant. They're easily the best ones, and they've got just 2 or 3 big knobs on them, not like loads of fiddly bits, and they sound so transparent. So
yeah,
with Atkin guitar, M80 pickup, and the Orchid preamp, it's a magic combination.
wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to buy one now. I think the one I'm looking
They're
at
not
is
expensive.
200 quid. I think it was one. Or
It was under 200 last time I bought one, but it might have gone up to. But they're so solid, and they're great for gigs, and they just lots of people try lots of fancy ones and stuff, but they look quite they look fancy, but they just work, you know.
Yeah, I might even buy one. Turn, you hear that? Then the Wallop might come out. I know it's rare, but it might.
I think it's likely we'll see as well, particularly at this moment in time.
Really,
I was going to ask you about you use like a blue acoustic as well.
Yeah, that's Alistair as well. He made that. He said, "Do you want me to make you guitar?" I said, "Yes, please." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "What do you want to?" He made me a black one that looked like a sort of Johnny Cash one before. He said, "Do you want another black one?" I said, "No. What about blue this time?" So he did that, and then it was in lots of guitar magazines and stuff. Oh, just a minute. I just need to reply. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Atkins guitars, Tone? Since you know a lot about guitars.
No, but I definitely have.
He's based.
Yeah.
Because Martin uses Loudons, you know. So we talk.
They're great. They're great. Yeah. But it's just Alistair's my friend, and it's great because when I first bought one from him, he was not very well known, but people I don't know, Dolly Parton uses them.
Wow.
Parton uses them, and he's just a really nice man. And I speak to him like just chat as a friend. Okay.
Well, we've gone off talking about guitars, but we you know, it's just what we do. So sorry about that. But get back onto the track, I suppose. Although it arguably is the track.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of stuff I just found really interesting looking back on your history. Really, you know, you are an absolute music obsessive, clearly, aren't you? And self-confessed obsessive, starting off in music stores and kind of working on from there.
I am. Yes, I am. But I also think of it as my trade, you know. It's what I keep the roof over our head with, so it's like I am, but I really love going to work, sort of thing. So that's what, even during lockdown, I've written albums with people, I've helped people produce things. I just really love making things happen.
Yeah.
Of course I love music, but I also love that I just love the adventure and I do a lot of workshops where people come to me and mentoring, and then I help them get them going, and I find that amazingly rewarding. And the person I'm speaking to, Elaine Lennon, I've been helping her with her stuff, and it's just when they first get played on the radio or something like that, it's just a really nice feeling. So
yeah,
that's probably drives me as much as the music itself, to be honest.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'll come back to later on, because we both kind of write, and a friend of mine who lives in Bali now, who's a guy who introduced me to your music, by the way, many years ago.
Right.
He's got some questions for you about that kind of thing as well, which is quite nice. We'll get to that at the end, I suppose. Could you just tell us a little bit about the early days of kind of getting into the music industry, and from the Great Divide kind of days, really?
Well, that was amazing, because I had a band when I before I left home, when I lived in Cambridge. We were called Placebo Thing. We were good. We nearly got signed to Virgin. Yeah. I went down to Virgin, and the man said, "We'd like to sign you," and we didn't have a manager, and I was so young and naive. I just thought, "Oh, that's all right," and I don't think he even had my phone number or anything. So it's like I was such a twerp. So nothing ever happened with them. But the drummer in that band was amazing. It's a guy called Dave Larkham, and he comes into the story later. But then I went to London, and I made a little demo tape on a 5-string guitar, because one of the strings had bust and I couldn't afford a new string. And I sent it to various people. There was a label in Cambridge called Leisure Sounds, which is really just a bunch of friends. And I went to meet them, and they were so complimentary about this little tape I'd made. I was 20, I think. And so I ended up playing with them. and that turned into The Great Divide, and we got a deal. I'm not sure we were the best band. I remember playing. It was years and years later the album came out through a re-release label, and playing it to my children, and all of them laughing so hard. Oh, thank you.
I just turn in the notifications off on my phone to send out the hell out of me that they're coming through in it.
Go on. My wife
breakfast is arriving.
No, it's my lunch. My wife just bought me some lunch. Thank you, sweetheart. It's very kind.
Could we ask what's for lunch? Anything good at all?
Yes, we're vegans. Don't judge us. So, but she was a professor. That was her business before she came to Glasgow.
Oh, yeah.
She made a curried pasty, and they're beautiful. So that's what I'm having for lunch.
Wow, sounds good. Yeah, we were talking about kind of early days and getting in, and you said about I suppose The Great Divide comes out of that. Does it out of that original band a little bit? The Placebo?
Yes, no, it's not the same people. It's the people
Okay.
from when I sent the tape.
All right.
It's me pinging now. I don't know how to. It's like too much pinging.
This is the world we live in, isn't it?
It's bloody hell. You can edit them out. Yeah, so that was me and 3 other fellows, and we signed to a label called Wimp originally, which I never thought was a good idea.
A great name.
And then we were lucky enough to be spotted and signed to a label called Ensign, which was run by the legendary Nigel Grange. Amazing that we met him. Nigel had signed people like, when he was younger, like really young, signed people like Thin Lizzy and Rod Stewart and stuff like that. And then he had his own label, Ensign, originally had all things like Boomtown Rats and stuff. And then he rejigged it, and we joined that second, and then the third version of the label. And the third version was the great version, where it had like Waterboys and Dave O'Connor and stuff like that. And he's a fantastic man, and he's always in my mind when I'm working on music. He was such a hard taskmaster, but he died unfortunately a couple of years ago. But he was so that was Great Divide, Ensign. Nothing really happened, and then when that stopped, I started the Bible with a fella called Tony Shepherd, and it was just meant to be a little thing, and that grew into that we're getting signed to Christmas, and then amazingly signed to Ensign again. So I was on Ensign twice.
Yeah. I noticed with the Bible, I don't know whether I'm wrong in thinking. I looked through the number of labels that the Bible runs, like half a dozen different labels.
It was really Max, which is my friend, so I'm still friends with in Norwich, and I still speak to them 2 or 3 times a week. It's the same guys, because I put a lot of music that I make for other people through them. And from Bax, we got signed to Chrysalis, and Ensign was a part of Chrysalis. So that was it, really. It's only 2 labels, really.
Okay. But the songs that came out of the Bible, I'll just tell you the story as well. I told you my friend of mine introduced me to your music. So one of my oldest friends, a guy called Colin Flynn, he was living in London at the time, and he played me Cigarette Girls.
Oh, cool.
That was the first song I'd ever heard, actually.
Oh, cool.
From the Bible. And in fact, he played it to me on his guitar and sang it to me.
Oh, sweet.
And I thought, what a great song, That
was amazing. Our second album, which was on Chrysalis, was produced by Steve Earle.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And Steve, we had a bunch of songs, and I was just playing a little thing in the studio, and he said, "What's that?" He said, "There's nothing yet." He said, "Well, write a song and we'll record that tomorrow." And so that's what happened. So I thought, "Oh God!"
Wow!
I stayed up all
was
night
that
writing.
Girls?
Yeah.
Wow. Is it like a D sus chord or something? You think, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, it is, and it's also. I just had a conversation with Tony, who's the other guy originally before it grew. Although he played keyboards in the band, he was a jazz drummer, really, really good jazz drummer, really quite a well-known jazz drummer, but he just played keyboards in our band. But he was very, very, had lots of thoughts about music, and one of his big thoughts was the strongest change you can have in a pop song is to go from the tonic to from D to A minor. So it's based around a conversation with him musically as well. So it was totally written in a panic.
What was it about lyrically? Because it's you know, is it like a personal song, or is it, you know, did you have sort of
It
lyrics
was
to hand?
it was sort of about very early on in our playing. We played in a club in Norwich, which I think was called the Jacquard, and it was kind of about, it was a sort of a couple of sleazy guys there
Hmm.
hitting on younger women.
Oh yeah.
So that was the
Wow.
starting point.
What a tenuous idea for a song. And a great song too. I mean, obviously, there were some pretty kind of big songs coming out from the Bible, and I know Tony
Yeah,
wanted to maybe talk to you about one in particular, actually.
yeah. Which one?
Graceland, of
Graceland.
course. You know,
Mm,
I mean, it probably would be one of my top charts, all-time charts. You know, it's a
oh,
brilliant song.
thank
I
you.
love it.
Thank you.
And it didn't really have the credit, perhaps, in terms of chart positions, but I think people who are into music know it's a great song.
Well, it's a
And
funny thing when we occasionally reform, and when we do, they're always incredibly well attended and be really emotional nights. So,
Hmm.
of course, people will say, "Oh, you didn't do too well in the charts," but actually, I kind of feel that we reach people. So I don't. It doesn't. You know, I've done other things and been involved in other projects that have been in the charts and nobody remembers them at all. But it's you just want to be remembered, don't you? So it was never. We just felt like this is an amazing adventure because it started out with two fellas playing in a pub, and then suddenly we never felt disappointed.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
couldn't quite believe our luck most of the time, you know.
No.
So
The song that Tony wanted to ask you about actually is not a
yeah,
song I know that well, but I know
yeah,
it's a song you love, isn't it, Tom?
yeah, it's well, and my good friend as well, who's the bass player in our band. He's
yeah.
basically been friends for years, and we had a conversation about it. It's American TV.
Oh, thank you.
Led to my younger self, and
Mm.
actually, my friend Tony did message you, and you were kind enough to send the chords to him to the song.
Oh, cool. I
Um,
can basically. I think I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, but he sort of put me onto it, and I mean, obviously, you know, it means a lot to people of a certain age. I think, you know, it's got that connection. It's obviously the Beach Boys kind of feel to it, but also like when I was a kid, and I know when he was a kid, the TV, you were just drawn to all the American images, California stuff
Totally.
like that.
That whole
Um,
album was kind of really, I wanted to be, I've never been nostalgic. I thought, why don't I just I come from a really boring part of North London and left as soon as I could, but I was just trying to evoke that mixture of the dullness of suburbia mixed with the magic of what was coming through the telly at you. So that was what that was about.
Well, you definitely got it. It seems to resonate, obviously, with people of sort of my age.
Yeah.
When it was kind of a time when everything about America was big and exciting.
Yeah.
How do you feel about America present day? And is there going to be a song about it?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got my really good American friends who I speak to, musicians and like whatever. They're really worried. So that's yeah. There might be a song at some point, but it's just they're just worried in a way that I've not seen them worried before. You know.
No, I can understand it, but you know, I just think. It's one of those songs that really depicts that era, and it just sort of, like I say, resonates with people.
Well, thank you. And they're trying to do that with the music as well. The Beach Boys thinking those chord changes your friend asked for, that the chord changes that you don't hear so much anymore. Those sort of, but you used to. So it was so much fun making that whole album because I made it in the same way as I used to with the very first band, The Great Divide. In that although we had a studio at our disposal, we made it as though they were demos or that mindset. Like, it's hard to describe. So I would a lot of the songs on that record, I would write them in the morning, come into the studio, and by the early evening we'd have the finished thing. So they're incredibly spontaneous, and I did that on purpose. Not all of the songs, but I think American TV was one of the ones where I just sort of wrote something in the morning, recorded it, and then. But my favorite thing about the whole of that song is the little piece of music at the beginning, because it's just started, and I thought, I think it needs more than this. And I have this genius friend called Gustav Lundgren who lives in Copenhagen, who's really like my go-to person when I want to do something a bit unusual musically. When I said to him, I spoke to him, I rang him up, he was in the park with his daughter. And I said, I want you to write me something that could have been a theme tune off American 60s theme tune, something a bit like Bewitched or one of those, comedies that used to come up and you didn't know what they were.
Yeah, I know.
And he said, yeah, I can do that. So he's in the park with his daughter, right? An hour later, the finished thing where he's playing bass, drums, guitar, piano, flute. An hour later, it arrived.
Wow.
Brilliant.
I think his daughter's playtime was curtailed.
I kind of pick up on that actually in the way you do stuff, and maybe I don't know. We'll come back onto the songwriting kind of workshop stuff later on again. But I think that's something that excites you, the idea of taking something and making it work with a kind of a sense of immediacy.
Yes, totally. It's really hard sometimes when you make music, is that you can't let everybody hear it right away. So I do that a little bit because I set up a Patreon to do that.
Yeah.
But like I've been commissioned to write a Christmas song for a film, and I did, and I've done it, and I'm working on it. I was working on it first thing this morning, and I'm so pleased with it. I want people to hear it, but I'm not allowed to let people hear it, and that really bugs me.
That's a film that's going to be coming out soon?
I don't know. It's meant to come out this Christmas. I don't know if it will, but it's an interesting thing. It's called A Christmas Call, and it's the Christmas Carol retold, an American film retold through Zoom. So that's what it is.
Okay.
So I don't know if it'll be relevant next Christmas. So no one will ever hear it ever.
Who knows what will be relevant next Christmas? The way things are going. Interestingly, with the Bible, if we look at the Bible and you Google it or Spotify or whatever, it brings up Danny Wilson and Gary Clark, and I think you're quite friendly with Gary. Have you got kind of a mutual respect for each other? I guess
we're the best buddies. Yeah, I was in his band for a while after I had a bit of a hole came along, and he said, "Will you be in my band?" And we toured together. I love Gary. I'm so pleased for him. He's so successful these days with his soundtrack music and so forth. He's amazing. And one of the big things about being here in Scotland, we thought we'd hang out together loads, but we haven't been able to because of the COVIDs. Because I've been here for a while, but I was touring. But I have I wrote a song that's on my last album in his front room while I was waiting for him to get up.
Brilliant. He lives in Dundee, I think, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
I don't know how far away that is from Glasgow.
Not very far. It's not very far. About an hour on the train. But Broughty Ferry, he lives in the fancy bit, which is beautiful.
We interviewed him on here a while back, and that was absolutely fantastic as well. That was really
he's a great fellow. He really is. And there was a sort of camaraderie because the Bible and Danny Wilson were sort of doing something a little bit similar by accident, and then there was this article written in Time Out that paired us together. It was like a big article saying we were doing this thing, and we met up and been friends ever since. He came to see us when we were playing in Town and Country or something like that, and
I wonder what that thing is. Because like when I listened back to some of your stuff, admittedly last night, because I haven't heard it for a while, I don't know. I just talk from the heart sort of thing. I was saying to Tony about it earlier. There's a kind of an emotional intelligence to the stuff and a depth to it, which you don't really see very much. Certainly, sorry, just like an old git, but you don't really see it much around popular kind of culture chart stuff these days. And I think the same with Danny Wilson. There's layers. There's layers to the stuff,
Yeah, we had a lot of the same reference points. And when I worked with Gary and we produced things together, it was always we both knew what the other person was thinking, and we just have we both liked Nielsen, and at the time no one particularly talked about Nielsen. Do you know what I mean? Things it was different reference points to the, although which is their fantastic, genius, wonderful Velvet Underground, but that was the reference point that all our pals, and I love them as well, but We were also liking the Randy Newmans and the Nelsons and all that stuff.
Yeah, he's a real music fan, isn't he, Gary? You know, kind of runs through him.
Yeah.
One of the songs, which is a bit of, I don't know whether anyone said this to you before, but Crystal Palace, kind of reminded me a little bit of Lloyd Cole kind of territory. Would that be a terrible thing to say?
Well, that's Neil's fault. Neil McCall's guitar part. I remember at the time saying,
Yeah.
hang on a minute, Neil, that sounds like Lloyd Cole. So it wasn't in the song originally.
No. Yes, it is the guitar part, actually. now you say it. Yeah. Which is nothing wrong with that in my eyes, you know.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. But I said, I think you've lifted that, McCall. So we've been busted 30 years later.
No, well, I don't know. I went to see him recently, actually, about less than a year ago in Guildford, and he's still a great performer. Great songs, brilliant. You know. Yeah.
He really good. Yeah.
I always had it in my mind, totally incorrectly, which one surprised Tony. I thought there was something Scottish about you. I know you're in Glasgow now, but because of kind of your association with Eddi Reader and the McCalls and all that, you know, I just thought maybe.
Well, one of the reasons I've moved to Glasgow is that I realised over the last 30 years I was spending nearly as much time in Glasgow as at home. So as Eddie lives here, there's a guy called Finlay Napier who lives over there, who I do a lot of work with. And my friend Mark Freegard is a wonderful producer engineer that I work with all the time. There's Jill Jackson, who I produce. It's like Chris Drevo, I love Chris. And I was just spending so much time here, and I loved it. And every time I came to Glasgow, I realised I really loved it. And my wife came up, and she loves it. And so we moved here, and it's the best thing we've done. You know.
Is Glasgow kind of a special place? Do you think musically? Has it got a kind of musicality and kind of, you know, as part of its soul sort of thing?
Maybe. The thing that really always struck me is that. That there's a real sense of people helping each other out, and the studio that I used to work in all the time, which was Mark Freegard's studio, by pure happenstance, me, Finlay Napier, Chris Drever, and a brilliant bass player called Ewan Burton, we've taken it over, so we've got a space in Wildflower, and the whole point of it was to keep the thing going that I always notice people just popping in, and it's difficult at the moment. But popping in and sharing their projects and stuff. And I used to love that. Whereas when I was down, especially working in London, everyone was like little separate gangs and very protective, but everyone's very open. And I think that bleeds into it. So
yeah.
It's just fantastic music being made all the time here, you know. So.
And, you know, never have we needed that working collaboration kind of openness more than now, have we, you know?
And that's my whole day. Every day is doing things like that. I've written of the things I've done. The thing I'm trying to help get released. That's what I was doing. That's why I was the meetings got bumped up. Whereas I made an album, written an album with a guy called Adam Holmes, and it's a Neil McCall by pure coincidence. I didn't produce it. I produced a lot of records, but someone else produced it. But Neil McCall, who was in the Bible, the guy who ripped off Lloyd Cole, he's playing on it. And in the whole time I've been doing music, it would be, and Neil was saying that it's in the top 5 of things I've ever done. I mean, that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't here. So, you know. No.
So you got to know the other McCall family, I guess. Did you associate them in various ways? Yeah.
Well, Callum was in the band as well, who's Neil's brother. I knew Kirsty a little bit. She was always really nice to me because I was dead shy if I was at like some sort of benefit gig or something. She'd always come over and make sure I was okay. I liked her. It was really, and also we all thought she was the best songwriter of her generation. We all did, you know. And then there was also Kitty, who's a brilliant singer, but decided not to go in for showbiz. And then there's Neil's son, Jamie, who's Bombay Bicycle Club, and Callum's son's a Jungle. So they're amazing. And I know Peggy. I saw Peggy in January. She did a gig with Neil and Callum at the big festival here in the winter called Celtic Connections. She's in her 80s, and it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant gig. So
that all goes back to Ewan, I guess, does it?
Yes, yeah. Who's left us now, but we used to rehearse, do acoustic rehearsals in their flat and stuff like that. So yeah, an amazing
Incredible, a family dynasty of, such.
Yeah, there was one point when all three generations, Peggy, Neil, and Jamie, were all on tour at the same time a couple of years ago. You don't get that in any other family.
Not very often. The other person we interviewed just recently, who turned out actually to be the most popular podcast we'd ever done, pure audio one, was Linda Thompson.
Oh, yes.
And of course, and I know you toured with Richard, so maybe we'll come onto that in a bit. But Linda Thompson, again, there's a family thing there, isn't there?
Well, Linda Thompson is, Linda Thompson's friends with my wife on Facebook. They speak to each other all the time.
Yeah.
I've only met Linda twice. She speaks to me sometimes, but I met her twice. She was being produced by John Wood one time, and John Wood produced 2 of my records. You know, John Wood, who did Squeeze, but also did Nick Drake's records. And I went. It was a Roundhouse, I think, and she was listening to Van Dyke Parks has sent an accordion piece over to put on her record. That was a really brilliant morning. And she was very, very excited. That's what I remember.
Yeah,
but she's lovely. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to see her because we had a bit of a technical situation. But she just. It was a fantastic interview,
Yeah,
you'd probably find it interesting, but if you had a look on the site, it's on there. But she's just amazing.
Yeah, amazing. So I was very lucky to tour with Richard as well. I think he had me on first, so he'd look especially good when he came on. But
he's not a bad guitarist, is he?
He was all right. He's all right. I gave him some tips, but he was it was really a real adventure. My favourite tour with him was touring in. We toured in Holland, and we stayed in the same place every night because it was such a small country. Except we did one gig which was in Maastricht, which is still in Holland, but it's down a little corridor, and it was all of the gigs have been clubs and sold out, and absolutely amazing. I used to watch them every night, which is not often when you're going on before someone. You sort of naff off after you've done your bit and get some tea. But I just used to watch them every night. I loved it. But we went down to Maastricht, and it was a different promoter. And this is the importance of promotion. It was one of the most beautiful theatres I've ever been in, 3,000-seater theatre. And when we got there wasn't a poster like the other promoter had up. There was a sort of photocopied thing stuck on the door of this huge theatre just saying, "Tonight, Richard Thompson and Bob Hewerdine," which I'd added in total. And 3,000-seater. Yeah. 6 tickets sold. There were 6 punters in.
Whoa!
And you think I'm the support, and when you're the support, half the people are in the bar. So
Blimey!
At the end of my first song, because it's all the lights, at the end of my first song, I just heard this sort of like that, and I thought it was my tour manager slapping the promoter's face.
Wow. I'm familiar with those kind of gigs, but I'm surprised you went through.
It's the importance of good promoters. It was amazing. Yeah. 6 punters.
Is it your cat meowing or is it mine?
It might be yours. I have a cat, but I can't.
I'll just check out the cat situation. 1 second.
Okay.
I don't have a cat, so it's not my cat. So.
Yeah.
There's a lot of meowing.
No worries there.
No, it's not mine. No, it must be. I don't know. Maybe it's around your place somewhere. But
it might be. I can't see her in the room. Is it bothering you?
No, not at all. I just thought my cat was trying to get in and was going to probably jump up on a table as it normally does.
Yeah.
Eddi Reader. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So and the kind of collaboration stuff that you've done with Eddi Reader over the years, and you're still intermittently when possible touring. So what's your take on Eddi Reader as a kind of a performer and a musician and
Well, I've been working with her for over 25 years. She's my biggest musical adventure of my life. She's amazing. Every night we do a gig, she amazes us. We're like the band looking at each other because we don't rehearse like other bands. She just gets up there, doesn't give us set lists often. We just get out there and start. And it's if she's on it, it's just the most transcending sort of experience. It's wonderful, absolutely brilliant. She can sing. She's just the best singer. She's an incredible entertainer. I mean, it's funny because a lot of people think about her hit 100 years ago, but there's a whole new thing she did there, particularly for younger people. We did this album about I don't know how long ago it is. a few years ago, I can't see, of Robert Burns songs, and she's got this whole other audience who don't even particularly aware that she ever did I think that is mine, she's out there, ever did Fairground Attraction or anything. So it's and I love it. I love it when we go and play to a new audience or abroad somewhere for the first time, and just everyone being gobsmacked by her. So I feel so lucky to have met her.
Did you say she's from Glasgow, or she?
She is, yeah, she's from Glasgow. She lives. I haven't seen. I've only seen her once since we moved here, just because of various reasons. I've seen her when we've been playing. We normally do a tour every February in Ireland, but I don't suppose that'll happen now. So that was the next. But we've. She's a wonderful person. Really, really wonderful person, and the whole atmosphere of the band and the people who work with her and everyone who surrounds it, it's a beautiful family. It's wonderful.
So you've mentioned so many people who live in Glasgow. So in my mind now, I'm thinking, maybe next summer when things are a bit normal, what a great barbecue that would be.
It would be.
Take guitars around, have a bit of a sing song.
Oh yes, there's always a sing song around her. She can do a barbecue. Yeah. She's so I've been so lucky to have met her, and I don't know what it is, 12 albums or whatever, tours all over the world.
Wow.
And always incredible laughs and fun, and she's beyond nearly any other performer I've ever seen when she's on. So
she's got just a ridiculously good voice, hasn't she?
She's a great voice, incredible storyteller.
Yeah. Incredible
way of reaching out to people that sort of transcends sort of records and so forth, I think. So yeah.
You co-wrote quite a bit of stuff with her, I think. Did you? With Patience of Angel springs to mind. Would that be one of them?
Well, I wrote that by myself. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I was very sorry. Apologies to
no help at all.
Not even from the cat.
No. Oh no, I wrote lots of stuff for her. Loads and loads. But she selfishly married a good songwriter a few years ago, so he writes some of them now as well.
That's no good.
That's John Douglas from the Trash Can Sinatras. So.
Oh, I love that band.
Yeah.
They were a Scottish band, weren't they?
Yes, her brother is the singer.
Yeah, I really like that band. They never got anywhere near the success they need.
Amazingly, they're still together, and they do amazingly well in America. They
good.
Tour twice a year in America and once a year in Japan. They're still making brilliant records. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah,
I got they had really nice artwork on their albums, if I remember as well, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
The gig that Tony came to see you at, one of the gigs that he saw you at was when you played with Chris Difford, and that was I think, was it Tony Woolway? Did you go with Tony Woolway, Tom, for that one? The two of you in that church?
Yeah. In
bit of an unusual gig, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of based on Chris's book, his autobiography, and we actually wrote scripts for that, which we never did, but we spent ages writing a script which we ignored because we were rebels. And it was brilliant. We did that. Eventually, that became a show in Edinburgh, which we did. It was fantastic to be in the same place and not have to drive from gig to gig. So every night or every afternoon we had our spot and we go, and it was just wonderful. I love working with Chris. We've done 3 albums together. We're just about to start the 4th one. And the way it works with Chris, which is unlike anybody else, is he sends me lyrics and then asks me to turn it into a song. So he doesn't, although he can play and sing, obviously, he just doesn't get involved in writing the music. So it's like a total gift as a songwriter. He's done all the hard work. He's done all the sums. Yeah. I just come up with a tune, and it just, we've got a lovely concept for the next set of things. The third record we did was we wrote a musical together, which will never be seen, and it nearly killed me writing it. 26 songs in it. It's called, what did you call it? He called it Fancy Pants. It wasn't called that at first, but it's the amount of work. That's the most work I've put into anything ever in my life, and I think only like 4 people have ever heard it. But you can.
Why will it never happen? Is there not a chance?
Well, unless you feel like investing in our musical.
I think you picked a slightly poor investor here. Not the best choice of investor. I
think 50 or 60K should get us off the ground.
I'll have a word with my wife. She's off down Aldi's at the moment. I'll ask her when she comes back.
Yeah.
Chris Difford, I mean, those stories, I don't know how you'd answer this, but, you know, the kind of stories that kind of go with those songs, I suppose. He's very witty, but I guess do you get to hear the same stories a lot, you know, when you're doing that with Chris, or does he vary it? How does it work for you? Because I guess you're there listening to it, aren't you, I suppose?
Oh yeah, it does vary, but not that much. I mean, it's like being in a play; it'd be fine if you
Yeah,
hear
I
it
suppose
again.
so,
It's
yeah.
like oh my god, it's like you're doing Shakespeare. You don't go, oh god, he's saying the same to me or not to me again. It's like you just it's part of your job. But
Yeah.
the thing is that I did used to try and make him corpse all the time. That was my I felt that was my job, to try and make him lose track and
Yeah.
yeah.
I've never met him, but I imagine he's a really interesting guy to work with.
He is very
Great
interesting.
songwriter as well, isn't he?
He
Amazing
is very
songwriter.
good. He's an incredible man. He's genuinely eccentric, and I feel very lucky and privileged to have him as a pal. Because obviously, when I'm watching Squeeze on Top of the Pops when I was a kid and stuff, it was really brilliant. One of the only time my old man, who's left us this year, sadly, was that he burst into my room and ripped a record off the turntables, and I was playing Call for Cats, and I'd played it like 17 times in a row, and it's purple vinyl as well, and he ripped it off the turntable and he threw it in the bin and said, I'll never want to hear that ever again. So about 5 years ago, me and Chris played near where my dad lived, and he came along, and I looked out at the audience and saw him clapping along to Call for Cats. I realised my entire life had been revenge for that single. You know,
I think I've got that copy. That copy, it was pink vinyl, I think.
Is it pink, not purple?
Pink, yeah, I still got it. I did the same. Well, just like I say, his book is brilliant. If people get a chance to read his book, he's just got such a great way with lyrics as well, hasn't he? Such a good way of writing.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit, Boo, about songwriting, about the songwriting retreats. We mentioned it earlier. One of the first names that comes up there for me, I'm sure you've lots of examples of this, Tanya Britton.
Oh, yeah, I know Tanya, yes. And Tanya is, in fact, in many ways, the one I like to talk to people about, because when she came to me, she had no idea what she wanted to do, or even the style or how to finish the song ideas that she had. And it was one particular conversation I had with her, which I always spend time with people and see what they want to do, what their bucket list is. And we kind of achieved it. And she formed the changing room, and she got someone else to be the singer, which was what she wanted to do. Though she's got a lovely voice and got a new album coming out now. She's got a lovely voice, but she decided. So it's Sam Kelly, I think his name was, the singer, fantastic singer. And they toured, they went all over the place. I mean, it fell apart for strange reasons, not musical, but it went all over the place with it. And there was at one point, she was doing a tour and she was playing bigger venues than me, and I had to put a stop to that. So, you know.
Going too far.
Yeah, but that's the whole reason with my workshops. Is it's not, a lot of workshops are like, let's pretend to be a tree today or something like that. It's not really like that. Mine are really, I get really into the nuts and bolts of it and just give people sort of tools to help them, because I don't think you can teach people to have ideas.
No,
you can't, but you can definitely help them realize them. So that's the thrust of what I do. So
those songwriting workshops, I've never been to one. I think Martin does something like that as well. Actually, Martin Joseph, we mentioned earlier, and I just find it a really fascinating idea. So, how many people would typically be involved in it? And
the one which I haven't been able to do this year, and probably won't be able to do next year. My favourite ones are with my American friend Darden Smith, and he comes over from Texas, and he has run them for Songwriting with Soldiers, which he brings this real sort of that side of it. It's almost like, as well as being about songwriting, you realise that people get to be away for a week and be very vulnerable and expressive, which they might not have done before. And he's really good at looking after them. But I have no feeling, so he covers that. And then, but there'll be ideally about 14 people. It's always more popular than that. And sometimes we do 2, so it's 2 sets of 14 or more. One time it was 2 sets of 20, which nearly killed me. But it's and you go, my favourite place to work is in Scotland, actually. It's a place called Moniac Moor, which is Scotland's creative writing centre. It's a beautiful place. I'm really good friends with them there, and it's a perfect environment. And I work people really hard, and it's really important that it's not teaching people to write songs. It's like, do you realise if you did this and then this, you might get to where you want to get to quicker? Because it's always, you can't, if people don't have it inside them, or didn't want to be creative or don't have ideas, that's a non-starter. But you can definitely, and then definitely with Tanya, is like talking about structure and all sorts of about arrangement, all those sort of things, and it works. And it's happened several times. There's a really brilliant young guy called Dara Cullen who calls himself D Cullen. He came when he was 17, and just a year ago he had a song called All Right that was like #1 in Ireland and stuff like that. And it's like, that is why I do it, because to help people realize what's already inside there.
So I'm thinking about, I was talking to that friend of mine earlier, and he was talking about chord inversions. And I was wondering whether, if you're looking for inspiration for writing, do you play with funny tunings? Do you use strange tunings and that takes you into other territories? Do you do that kind of stuff?
Sometimes. Yeah, I do sometimes. And I really love playing through real books just to learn jazz sequences and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love doing that just to see how you can get from A to B. But as of late, I don't really write on my guitar quite as much. I've got a piano, and I kind of my thing and it's become more and more as I do it is melody first and then fit the chords around it. So I did, and that's a lot has come from working with folkies who will often give me a melody and say, what can you do with that? And then I might harmonize it. And so it's just, although the Bible is all about chords, and I know I have to know all the chords working with Eddi or whatever, because you just have to jump on the spot. But I just become quite obsessed with melody first at the moment.
Yeah, that's I've not spoken to a songwriter actually who said that before. Maybe it's obvious to you, but just
I'll tell you what. It partly came from my friend John Kelly, who's a producer, who and he worked for Paul McCartney for a long time, and he said, I asked him, how does Paul McCartney write songs? He said, and this isn't why I do it, but it's just interesting. He just said, he always comes in with a snatch of melody before he picks up his guitar, and it's really good. And in my workshops, I encourage people to do that. And sometimes people come up with things they didn't know were in them, because if we start with the chord sequence, we're immediately trapped in a little harmonic prison, aren't we? So our melody has to fit to the chords.
That's true.
Chords are meant to fit to melodies, and that's so.
So in the songwriting workshops, so I'm just really interested in what you're talking about here. Is do people sort of will someone say, "Can I hum you a tune" or something? Is that kind of how it works?
Say again, sorry.
Would somebody say, "Can I hum you a tune"?
Yeah, sometimes there's lots of different things, but there have been people who, one of the biggest success stories for me has been a guy who could not sing, could not play, and his lyrics kind of didn't always make sense, but he had this determination, and he formed this band, which is not really a band. The first record I was on it, Green Pole was on it, all different people helping him with his lyrics. And they're now on their the second album proper. It's not out yet, and they're called Simon and the Astronauts. He's called Simon Wells, and my son in fact writes the music for that. And they've made this album. It's amazing. They've got Rachel Hayden as the singer on this record, and she sang with Weezer and Beck and Todd Rundgren. So and they've made this thing, and it exists because Simon had ideas. He couldn't really play, he couldn't really sing, he couldn't even write in meter. I talk a lot about meter and lyric and stuff, and he still comes to me with help when he's written a lyric, but the ideas are always, the central idea, the nugget at the beginning, are always really great, and these people want to work with him because he has great ideas. So it's great, all chord stuff, melody stuff, all that stuff. It's ultimately it's about ideas, I think. I mean, yes. So, but the thing is, my son just so happens to write really great tunes to his lyrics. So, I always think you need a good melody at some point, but it doesn't mean you can't be a good songwriter. If you're just coming up with the ideas. So,
apologies for asking you so many questions, but I'm just really interested in talking to you about this stuff. What you're saying there reminds me a little bit of Ian Dury with the Blockheads.
Yeah, totally.
These poems and stories and whatever, and then
that's totally. And he was innately incredibly musical man, but it was the magic of putting him with Chaz Jankel that made those really astonishing records, you know.
Yes.
Whereas Kill When the High Roads were great, but that's a total other level when you got to New Boots and Panties, isn't it? So
Yes, yeah, one of the best albums ever, actually. I think. But there you are.
Produced by Eddie's ex-manager. What's his name? Oh, Peter. Oh, he used to manage Pink Floyd. It's gone. You'll look it up anyway.
We'll Google it in a minute.
Yeah.
Just to talk to you a little bit about Brooks Williams.
Pete Jenner. Sorry.
Well done, Pete Jenner. There we are.
Brooks Williams. Yes, it's me and Brooks, a State of the Union.
Yeah.
I sound such a social butterfly when you talk about what I do. It doesn't feel like it.
It's amazing what stuff you've done. It's incredible. I mean, it's just difficult to nail it down to, you know, it's just so much stuff to talk about. But I watched your performance on the Andrew Marr show, right? So when you did Rent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And firstly, just to say to you, I hate Pet Shop Boys, right? I can't. They're one of my pet hates, if you excuse the pun. Yeah. But I liked what you said when he kind of interviewed you briefly before, and you said about this idea of taking a song, and then kind of bluesifying it and taking it in a different direction. Because I really liked your version of it, but I can't stand the Pet Shop Boys. It's kind of
this comes from a conversation really early to go back to that guy Nigel Grange. He said whenever you do a first album. He used to plant these things in my mind. He said it's a good idea to do a cover so people can hear what you can do with someone else's song. So I said that to Brooks, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I said, "Let's do the most. Let's go as far away as we can from what we do." And we thought of loads of them. In fact, we did a whole album of covers. That was our last album, which is called Saltwell Sessions. It was my wife's idea to do that because it's actually the song itself in the lyric it's a beautiful song. It's a really touching song, and so for me, songs aren't arrangements, you know. So we gave it a different arrangement. It's still the same song. So that's really key to me when I write songs for people and they say, "How shall I do it?" I say, that's totally up to you. Do whatever you like to. And I like to hear what people do and take it into totally different territories and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, it was a great, and he's a wonderful player, isn't he?
Brooks, amazing, yeah. But obviously he's a wonderful guitar player. I think he's the 54th best guitar player in the world, according to one particular poll, which is not to be sniffed at. But one of the other things I really love about working with Brooks are two things. One is his sense of timing. His fantastic sense of timing, but he's got a beautiful, beautiful voice as a male voice in the studio. When we got into the studio and I first heard him in front of a Mike, he has an exquisite voice. He really does. So that to me, with the new record that we're working on, which we've been writing during lockdown, is much more centered around the two of us singing together, like a bit like Everly Brothers type thing.
Oh, that sounds great. When's that due for release?
Well, there's a single coming out. I think it's out next. It's on the 30th, the first single, which was a lockdown single, which is called Why Does the Nightingale Sing? That's on Reveal. And then we've got another one coming out, which my son came up with the title. He's forgot it was Solitaire for Two, which is a brilliant title. So that's the second one. But the album itself, we're going to wait till we can get into the studio, the one I mentioned that is in Glasgow, and do it live, because that's what we like doing best. So we've done it okay during lockdown, like ping-ponging tracks to each other, and they sound great and really happy with them. But there's nothing like being in a room with him playing music, you know. Well,
we can try and coincide the interview going out around that the 30th, if that's of use.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. I think it's on Bandcamp at the moment, or I could send you. I don't know if I've got a version of it.
That'd be great. Is there a video for the single at all? Or?
Well, I made a video because no one else wanted to do it, and I don't think I'm going to be winning any Oscars for it, but I'll send it you if you like.
If it's of use to you, I'm sure it'll be great.
Yeah, I will do. Yeah. But don't judge it too harshly. Remember, look at the thickness of my lenses. I hope you're not expecting anything too visually amazing, you know.
Talking about and I don't misinterpret this now, because you've got a characterful face, right? Somebody like Steve Earle, okay?
Yeah.
Also an absolute character, and he is hardly the epitome of the kind of good-looking frontman kind of thing. He kind of.
What are you trying to say here? Well, I don't know what the hell are you trying to say?
He's offending our guest.
You say, when you were ringing bells at Notre Dame.
No, what I was saying is Steve Earle is one of my heroes.
Steve, to be honest, when Steve was a young man,
love Steve Earle, you know.
But when he was a young man, he was a very beautiful young man, if I may say so.
Well, he did a lot of drinking and stuff.
Yes, but this is I have no this.
Just the beard.
I've just achieved it by myself. It's just terrible. This reminds me of when. You see, the problem with the band is like I used to think I looked okay. My wife obviously thought I looked okay and stuff, and then we formed the Bible. And the problem was that the other members of the Bible they looked like male models. It was really annoying. And so I remember we were being asked to be managed by Miles Copeland's psychic. I forget what his name was. He took us out for a meal and he was listening to everything and he said, you know, it's such a shame that Neil's not the singer because he's so much better looking.
Oh man, that's
terrible.
terrible.
That. And now you know.
I was only talking again. I was only talking about your beard. I was just talking about your beard. That was all. And just saying that Steve. The
thing is, right. The thing is, Neil's put on a lot of weight and lost his hair.
There you
so
go.
I've won. You know.
There you go. You had him in the end.
I did have him in the end. Yeah.
But I wanted to talk to you about working with Steve.
I'm just looking for some seasonal work. You know. Okay.
But what was it like working with Steve Earle as a producer? I imagine that must have been incredible.
I love Steve. Yeah. He was more vibe and stuff. He wasn't so much technical, and he was struggling with his sort of drug intake at the time, so you'd lose him for half the day. But I'm still, I love him. He is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. His brain works quicker than anyone I've ever met before in my life. It's just incredible. But the first meeting we had with him was rather weird because I don't know if you know his story, but he got attacked in a nightclub by a policeman with a nightstick. I don't know if you know that story.
I've got his book and I haven't read it yet. He
was trying to help someone in a club who was having a heart attack, and he knew a bit of that stuff. And this off-duty policeman thought that Steve was attacking him. Steve's the most gentle person I know.
Yeah,
so he put a nightstick right in that, and so he crushed his throat, and all the blood vessels in his eyes burst. Wow. So the first meeting we had with him, we were really nervous waiting, and he comes in, and he'd just got onto the plane. He just looked really tall, scruffy. He felt like that because of the thing like that. And both his eyes are completely blood red, like in a horror story. Hi guys. Oh my God, we're terrified. But he's a really gentle, brilliant man. And he was really, I remember one time when things weren't going well and we'd gone to the Meanfield Acoustic Room to watch Nancy Griffith, who brilliant. I used to love the Meanfield Acoustic Room, and I was sitting at the steps at the back with him, feeling a bit worried because things weren't going that well with the label and that. And he put his arm around me. He said, "You're always going to be all right because you're a songwriter."
Wow,
and he was right. And he's thanks, Steve. So
yeah.
we ping. He writes the short. I get the piss taken out of by my friends for writing short emails. His are amazingly short. You know, you can write this sort of big long thing about what you're doing, and you'll just get K come back. Okay. All right.
Anything from Steve Earle for me would be, just from to know I was alive would be enough.
He wrote "You Belong to Me." You know that one, that song. You Belong to
Me. Yeah.
He wrote that on my guitar.
Did he?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I love his
Neil's on that album on Copperhead Road. Neil's playing guitar on that. So.
Is he? Wow, didn't know that.
Yeah, on Johnny Come Lately, that song.
Yeah, it's another great track. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, because we're talking about Steve Earle as a producer there, and you said earlier that you played a couple of chords, so write a song for me by tomorrow. So that's kind of an interesting approach. What's your approach to producing when you're producing stuff? How do you sort of get the best out of the people you work with?
Shouting, bullying. It's much more of that. You create an atmosphere, but it's a much more involved thing. Producing isn't just being in the studio. You find the venue, you find the cast, it's just a really involved thing. But I'm old school in that I don't run the board, if you know what I mean. I can at a push, but I'd rather work with engineers. So like working today with Chris Pepper is fantastic guy. We're just working on he'd done a remix of a single for an artist and stuff, and we talk like that. But I will just give my opinion on it, so I do it old school rather than, because most producers these days are engineers as well. But I think there's a lot to be said for not being the engineer, and so I have partnerships with people who are engineers, and I'll bring them the project. I will do what's called routining the song, getting it ready to go in the studio, and then I'll do work on the aftercare as well. So it's a very involved thing, but every single artist and every single project is different. So I don't have a routine, because one of my favorite records I produced was made on a mobile phone, so, and then I've also done albums that have involved orchestras and stuff like that.
How the hell did you do that? It was a Windows phone, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was with Google Android phone, but the way we did it was we got him to take lots of takes, and then he hired in, his piano was a bit ropey, so he hired in a nice piano, and he would take lots of takes, positioning the phone, then sent them to me and Chris, and then we spent a long time mastering them, a bit like happened with Nebraska, because it was done on a 4-track that was really, really carefully mastered. So we did that. We did lots of edits. So yes, it was recorded on a phone, but we just made sure it could sound as good as possible. And I love listening to that record, because you feel tense, almost like is the take going to collapse, because it's live and it's done on this little box. So
Wow.
Every project's different, and he had given me lots of very amazing demos recorded with Danny and Champions of the World, who are fantastic, but just stuck at the end of his demos with these 2 songs he'd recorded on his phone, and one of them moved me to tears. So I thought, well, let's do that. So you just take each project as it comes,
Just turn it and just never think of doing that. It's just just a really great idea, isn't it?
No, I was really very happy with it, and it was really. I think it should always be an adventure. So rather than say, right, this is what's going to happen, we do this, this, and this. I just everyone has got different sort of thoughts, and often it's just getting the person doing what they really want to do, because they'll sometimes think, oh, I couldn't do that,
Of course, I suppose that's always going to be that little kind of relationship with the songwriter, I suppose, particularly when you want to kind of redefine the arrangement and this kind of stuff.
That's really happened recently with a woman I've watched and really liked for ages in Glasgow called Adriana Spinner, and she does really lovely folky records. But she came to see me here and said, what I really like is I really like stuff like the Breeders and stuff like that. And this was totally brilliant, because I said, come with me, and I took her around to Mark Freegard's studio, which is now ours, and said he produced the Breeders.
Wow.
So now she's making records with that are got aggressive guitars on, all that, and that's what she really wanted to do. So for me, it's not about me putting I don't like if people can tell I produce something. I'd rather it's I have long conversations with what people really want to do, and then try and realize it for them.
Have you got, I don't know, it might be a tricky question, have you got a favorite song that you've written for someone else, because I know you've worked with some pretty big names, or a song you've collaborated on perhaps with someone else, which is the one that you really so kind of happy with or proud of?
There's not that many, really. The ones that I really love and I'm really, really like, I don't know, crikey. I like the song Belbrook Candle, which is done on open tuning, and then that was the first one, and it made me realise what you could do with that, and that's been I like that one. I don't know. I quite often like a song that I don't think anyone's done apart from me. It's a long song called White Lilies. I find that really moving. There's a whole series of songs I wrote for other projects that were that are for shows or whatever. And there's a song called The Man That I Am that I wrote for a thing called the Ballads of Child Migration, and probably the whole album that I wrote with Duke Special, which is called Under the Dark Cloth. That's probably the album I'm most proud to have been part of. That and the Burns album, those two are probably the ones.
Have you got gold records on the wall? I guess, have you?
I've got a gold, a silver, and a platinum. And I
In
put them
in
up
order.
there. Yeah, and I put them up there in order to when people come around to write with me to intimidate them, and it works really well. You know?
Perfect. That would put you at
This
ease.
my missus said I should put them up because I think it's a bit
Well,
showy.
if you
off
got
me,
them, if you got them,
but-
yes, blimey, you know.
Let me see. Can you
Oh
see?
yeah, wow,
What's that? No, oh, I don't know.
yeah. Just about to see them there, yeah.
Yeah.
Other forms of writing. What was the Morgan at 45 thing? That was where you were writing short stuff, wasn't it? Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's for a brilliant art project with this guy. I don't know him, but he paints really large paintings of 45 labels of 45.
Yeah.
And what was really great is I did Your Cheating Heart, and what was really brilliant is they sent me the big print of it, and I haven't seen Eddi for ages, but she was in Your Cheating Heart, the TV program.
Oh yeah.
So I got it framed up nice and sent it over to her. So that was nice. But that was just, yeah, I love writing, but I don't get asked to write very often. But yeah.
And you're also on that, I think, a forthcoming miniatures music album as well. Aren't you?
Yeah, that was great. The guy called Barry Lamb asked me to. I wrote 2 songs that I really liked. That was real fun, and I remember that album when it first came out. And my son's got a track on that as well, which is really nice. We're going to be on the same record.
What's your son's?
He's called Ben Hewerdine. He's called.
Oh right, okay.
I think it's under his own name. I bet he's also got Simon and the Astronauts, and he's also calls himself the Entertainment. But I don't know what he's called himself on this one. But his hero is a man called Stevie R. Moore. Is that right? R. Stevie Moore. But he's on it as well, and that's his all-time hero. So that was nice for him.
So
it's fun writing a song for a minute. Did you write?
Yeah, I'm on there. I'm on there. We're on the same album.
It's fun. It's really. I can't wait to hear it. And it's really fun writing something a minute long, isn't it?
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it.
It's quite hard. I mean, a lot of the stuff on there is obviously sort of avant-garde stuff, you know. But to try and get a tune into a minute to mean something.
I had one that I'd written for my last album, and it's 1:06, so I feel a bit disappointed in myself that he accepted it. But the other one, which is a song I wrote for it, but he asked if you could put both on, which is really nice. But the other one it's called 11:59, and it comes in at exactly 59 seconds. So
wow. I'm really looking forward to hearing that album. It's like 100 acts or something crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, you say you're looking forward to it. Let's see on song 70, see if you're looking as enthusiastic as you were.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're not going to.
It's great that he did it, because I totally remember when that first record came out and really liking it. So
yeah,
that's nice when things like that happen.
40th anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah.
On that. And again, then talking about writing, of course, you were involved with the soundtrack quite heavily for Fever Pitch. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that was with Neil. Yeah,
okay.
So Neil we did that, which was okay. That was good. But the one that I really liked, which I think I put on the wall, is 24/7. The Shane Meadows film with Bob Hoskins. That was such a thrill doing that one, because Shane was really young, and he gave us total free reign, and we made it in a really brilliant way. We got a studio, and we put big screens around the studio of the scenes that music was being set to. And Neil and I had written like skeletal pieces. They were chord sequences with little bits of melody, and we had these really great musicians, and we gave them these real sketches. And then we sort of said, right, we're going to make this, but you're going to watch it while you play. And I love doing that. So it's like a performance, whereas every other film music that I've done, it's very much to a grid and to a computer sort of stuff. So this was total performance, and I love it. I'm really, really happy with that. We got lots and lots of work offered to us after that, but they wanted to go down this more sort of boring route, to be honest. And I withdrew from that and went back to writing songs. And Neil stayed in that world for another 10 years before he escaped. He did some brilliant stuff, and he still does stuff in films. He just, what's it called, Wild Rose. He's actually in that. He did all the music for that. So, but I didn't enjoy that world, and it was actually doing the Shane Meadows film where it felt like a gig rather than homework that made me realise that I didn't want to do that. If they could all be like his thing, his project, I'd still have done it.
Yeah, that sounds amazingly creative. Of course, the thing with Nicole, I've read quite a few Nick Hornby books. I mean, the obvious one for you to have done would have been High Fidelity, wouldn't it, with your background?
Well, it's based partly on the shop that I worked in.
Is it really?
Friend.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought there had to be a connection.
I used to work in a shop called The Beat Goes On, and he used to come in all the time and ask us about questions, like technical questions about reordering and stuff like that. He mentions it in the book High Fidelity, he mentions coming into our shop because he used to make us play Buzzcocks going steady, singles going steady, because he had a superstition that if we played that in the shop, then Cambridge United would win. It didn't work. We lost, because I support them, we had 23 games in a row that season, so it didn't really work as well as I think he'd hoped. But he's amazing. His success is amazing because he was this really nice guy. There were 4 people. One was another guy who's a writer called Mick Coleman, and then there was me, who I just was younger and I wouldn't be there all the time. It's basically the 3 of them, but I would sit with them sometimes in the pub. This guy called Derek Chapman, who I started a label called Haven with, but we all thought Derek was going to be the one to do something. But Nick's fantastic. I remember standing in Glasgow Station on one of my many visits at Central Station, and in one shot there was a big poster for About a Boy. In another shot there was a big poster for Fever Pitch, the album, and everywhere I looked around this every shop had a new piece of Nick work in it. He took over the world. It was amazing. So there are my children character names in, I think they're in High Fidelity or Fever Pitch. I can't remember, but they appear, their names. Yeah.
Cool, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, a big Arsenal fan as well.
But his second team is Cambridge United. I don't know if you knew that.
Out of interest, is that your team, Cambridge?
Yeah.
Because there was a famous match, Tony, you remember this, we're both Cardiff City fans.
Yeah.
There was a famous match with Cambridge. Were they down to 8 players or something? What happened?
I think it was, didn't we? Yeah, I'm trying to think back. I think we held on for a draw or something. I might even have been there.
Did you go to Cambridge?
Yeah,
the Abbey, the smallest ground in the league.
Tiniest, hell of a journey.
Yeah, there's one at one end. It's called the allotment end, and it's called that because it's just low seating, and the ball would go over into the allotments.
Into the allotments, yeah. It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the idea of that. But in this, you should try and Google this, Boo, or if I can find the link, I'll send you the link. Yeah. It's the most fantastic football commentary you'll probably ever hear. It's almost like that famous one, what's that one when he said, when was it England beat some country and they were saying we did this for you and we did that for you? It's a famous kind of rant he goes into.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's about Cardiff City. They're down to 8 men and they're playing at Cambridge and they managed. I think they managed to hold on for a draw. And he's almost crying by the end of the commentary. It's brilliant.
Wow. I wonder which era that was. I wonder.
80s, Tom, was it?
Was that John Beck? Was that John Beck, or was it Ron Atkinson or something like that?
I think it was John Beck. I think
it's going back quite
John Beck.
My memory's pretty poor on these things.
My friend was the school friend was the financial director there, and he once invited me to go and go on the director's box. So I thought, this is going to be exciting, and I went up there. And it was just in the stands, but there was some yellow tape round where we were standing.
Wow, it's a nice idea, wasn't it? You can say
special. Felt so special.
I've only got one more question for you, really.
Yeah,
I'll have to remember to send you the link to that.
Yeah, please.
But this comes from my friend Colin Flynn. So Colin Flynn's one of my oldest guys. He loves your stuff, and he's the guy who introduced me. Play Me Cigarette Girls.
Yeah.
And he's actually learnt the chords and everything and played it to me. But he's
very
so he's a big fan. But he's very lacks in confidence a lot in his kind of performance. He's actually quite a decent guitarist, and he hates his voice and all the rest of it. But firstly, he said he'd absolutely he lives in Bali, by the way, now. So
get us a gig,
yeah. He'd love to go to one of your songwriting treats, just as on his bucket list, I suppose. But his question for you, and the last question was quite a good one, I hope, is this might be about Colin. He says, what advice would you give to someone who has 1,000 ideas and no songs?
Is you have to sort of you have to commission yourself. So if I put that in context, so like if I get asked to write from a radio program, someone will say, can you write a song about loneliness or something for a program? So you get commissioned, and that a lot of great art has always been commissioned. Someone's asked someone to do it. That doesn't happen with songwriting so much. So what I encourage people to do is think of what you want to say within a set of songs or suite of songs with an EP album or a gig or whatever, and stick with that, and it starts being like a little creative cauldron. And as a lot of my friends work that way, Duke Special did with the thing we did. Emily Barker, who's a friend of mine, she always approaches an album like that, because you're not trying to write your life in one album. You're trying to write that album. You don't. Every album doesn't have to be Sgt. Pepper. And as soon as you start giving yourself little constraints, it sort of seems to fire off your creative process. So the last album I did, I gave myself the restraint of there are no guitars on my last album. It was all of it was started with an old instrument called a dulcitone, which used to be made in Glasgow, which is another thing that sort of drew me here, which is a very quiet sort of keyboard that plays tuning forks. And that's how I wrote the whole record on that, and it's got other instruments on it. But those constraints set me off on sort of lyrical ideas, all sorts of ideas. So if you've got 1,000 ideas, just think, why doesn't he sort of try and write something about a year in Bali or something like that, or write about like I did with that album with American TV on it, write about your childhood or something. As soon as you give yourself context, you're away. And that's the problem with being a songwriter, is you're looking at an endless blank page. So as soon as you do that, it changes. It's like if he was here with me now and I said, right, we need to write a song about sort of horse racing today, he'd be off, he'd be away, and he would do it. But when you've got the whole world in front of you just empty, what am I going to do? So that was my advice, would be to give himself a little project.
That's a fantastic answer, actually. He'll love that answer. But he's currently living alone, quite recently living alone. He's in Bali, it's a beautiful place. He's seen it as all these wonderful things, and he's got no one to tell about it. So maybe that's, like you say, a good starting point. Let's tell him through music, you know.
And just keep it small, because you keep the room small, we're naturally rebellious. You push against your constraints. And one of my favorite records I've ever made, which is not so much from the lyrical point of view, musical point of view more, was with Hafdís Hult, who I've worked with a few times, a brilliant Icelandic singer. And she came to me and Neil. She'd had a hit and she'd got a big record deal. Said, I don't want to do that. I want to make an album using just children's toy instruments. And it's one of my favorite things I've ever done. So he gave us these real constraints. So you have to get inventive. And as soon as you have that, stuff happens. Otherwise, you're just staring into up at all the stars in the sky forever, you know.
Yeah.
So
well, great. I hope that inspires him. I just want him to write. I want to hear his stuff.
Yeah.
Just for you personally, Patreon, and you know how you're kind of coping, and anything you want to sort of point people towards. Or...
Well, I'd love people to join my Patreon. You can play as little as you like, actually, but it's just every day I put something up. And like yesterday, I put up a song that I found on an old phone, and when I played it, it's about 80% finished. But I was like, well, that's really good. But I play a bum note towards the end. But I thought, whatever. So I mastered it, and put it up there and wrote a little piece about it. No, people wouldn't hear that otherwise. And the response I had off it was lots of people were saying, getting texts and emails saying, oh, I was really moved by that. Thank you for sharing it. So it's a lovely place where it's not a release, but it's like a curated little thing. And I'll put up like 2 days ago, or yesterday maybe, or 2 days ago, I found the original artwork for the Bible album when it was re-released, and it had all these fantastic sleeve notes, and for some reason it never got used in the release, so I share that with people. So and some people pay as little as £2, and then some people are a lot more generous. So it's not, it really helps. A bit of money, it really definitely helps, but I don't do the tier system that a lot of people do. I'm not trying to sell anyone anything. It's just a little place, and if someone can help me, that's great. But
and how do they get to that? Is that through the boohewerdine.net site?
If you go to Patreon and put Boo Hewerdine in, you'll come, and then there's a page where you pledge a certain amount every month. But actually, I think my wife pledges £1 a month, so so it's like you can
And she cooks your food.
Yes, she does. That was really nice, by the way. She was still selling her cakes, which were fantastic. I would do a little plug for them. But she's got a different work now.
Well,
yeah, and anything, and you can buy my CDs off my website, and it's my very they're over there, and I'll put them in the jiffy bag. I'll take them to the post box, and I'll put a lock of my hair in, whatever you like.
Or your beard.
Yeah, well, no. Don't touch the beard.
Look at that far.
Anyway, Boo, it's been fantastic talking to you. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
And hopefully at some stage there might be such a thing as a gig. Maybe we can come and see you play.
That'd be lovely. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I hope I didn't bang on too much. Cheers.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Boo.
See you later. Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.